All right, we're live.
Hey, looks like we're live. Welcome to today's Chiropractic Leadership. This is our first Lasting Purpose edition. We're talking with Dr. Thomas Taylor, a fairly recent graduate at Life University. He's practicing down in beautiful, historic Charleston, South Carolina. And I just want to preface by saying that for 35 years, I've been watching new grads get started in practice, and it seems from what I've observed that there's three keys to real success in practice and in having the kind of life you want as a chiropractor. The first is a service orientation, which is really being interested in taking care of people. And the second is, of course, knowing really well how to locate, analyze, and correct vertebral subluxation and communicating that to patients that that's what you're doing, what that does for them. And third, deciding where it is that you want to be and putting down roots there and becoming an active member of that community. And from what I've observed about you is that you really fill the bill on all three of those things. So for young DCs out there, can you share a bit about how you've achieved such a pretty good level of success in a really short period of time since you've graduated?
Awesome, awesome. So thank y'all for having me. I appreciate it. Miss Rebecca, we love you. I think I wouldn't be in the place that I'm in today if it wasn't for the leadership from guys like you and your husband and some of the other people over at Life University. So I really just owe a lot of the success that I've had early on to the leadership, first of all, that I received down at Life University. You know, for me, this was a very new path. I don't come from a chiropractic family. There's no second, third, or fourth generation. And so this was a totally new branch of, type of branch of what I considered at one point medicine. And that's kind of where I came from on the way and headed to med school. So once I really got to Life, and it was in your husband's class, and that was back when he was teaching, intro to philosophy. And I can remember sitting in that class thinking, what is going on here? What is going on? I have, coming from that medical model and not really knowing and understanding what chiropractic was really about and the philosophy, science, and art, and just how you tied and married those things together. My mind was completely blown. So I will have to say that I didn't get it right up front, but I'm so glad that after sticking with it over time that it really, as a slow drip, started to infiltrate my mind and really just turn on that fire and passion and conviction for chiropractic and what that truly means. And so one of the things you asked when you first started off was about having that service heart and service mentality. And that's huge, because I think a lot of times, a lot of us, as we get into undergrad and we're kind of thinking, what do we want to do and what direction we want to do? And most people will say, well, I want to be a doctor, right? And I want to be a doctor so I can help people. So I think at the core of most of it, people have a genuine want and need to help and serve. But then you start thinking about some other stuff like the lifestyle and money and cars and all this other kinds of stuff. And so sometimes that can be muddled. But I think we all kind of maybe start from a good place, and that's service. I'm also a member of our local Rotary club here. And one of the things,
well, no, let me just stop you, because I'm a Kiwanian, so as much as I love you, we have to fight about that just a little. But it's great being a member of a civic organization. Sure, I'm teasing you. Go ahead.
Absolutely. As long as you're in a civic organization, I think that's all that matters. But one of the things we talk about in Rotary is this motto, and many of you have heard it over and over again. Some of you may not have heard it, but it's called service above self. And I think that's one of the, the biggest things that I've really just been able to gravitate toward after leaving Chiropractic Island, because I know, as many of you know, when you're there and when you're in school and you're surrounded by everybody who is talking chiropractic and living chiropractic. And once you leave, you're not on the island anymore. And then so you realize you've got to find something to attach yourself to, so you don't really start to lose those principles and things that you had when you were there. So Rotary has been one of the things that's helped me too. Just that service heart mentality. You know, Dr. Sid did it with our lasting purpose: to give, to do, to love, to serve. And that's something that you got to maintain, you know, because there is going to be some times where that person comes in your clinic and maybe they don't have the ability to pay, right? But you know beyond the shadow of a doubt that you can help them. And, you know, sometimes, you know, like Sid said that too, right? You know, whether or not they had the ability to pay also. And that's hard. That's hard for a struggling new doc to do that. But I feel like if you keep what's important, which is the service above self and lasting purpose, that your vision will become clear. And the more good things that you genuinely do and pour into your community, that's gonna come back. That's gonna come back to you. Yes. So that's the first thing, the service, keeping a servant's heart, I think is very important.
Yeah, and you know that's one of the first things I ever, you know, kind of loved about you was, you know, what a servant you were through the fraternity and here at school, and so many times that just things that needed to be done here around campus, you were always one of the guys willing to jump in and help do that. So it definitely made you a standout here. So I know it's making you a standout in your community. What do you think about in terms of you, because I know, you know, chiropractic school, even though I'm not a chiropractor, it's really hard. It's super stressful, and try as hard as we might, we sometimes manage to stress you out even more with hoops and all kinds of stuff that sometimes don't make any sense. Sometimes, you know, it's just the way it is. It's out of our control. Sometimes we're even the cause of it. But you know, on the assumption that everybody is doing the best they can, which I think makes our lives a little bit richer when we assume everybody's doing the best they can, as hard as that is to assume sometimes. Mm-hmm. In spite of all that, you know, some grads leave and they're kind of bitter and they're like, I'm never doing this, I'm never supporting, I'm never giving back. And yet you've been super supportive of your alma mater, and you know, you've served as a state rep. You were even named State Rep of the Year this most recent year at Fall Celebration. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
So why is it that you've been able to move forward and be supportive? And I know you've probably touched on it a little bit before. How have you been so supportive of your alma mater and the profession and all of that, in spite of all the challenges and stresses that a new doc has right out of the gates?
Sure. And that's it. You know what? It's kind of difficult, to be honest with you. It's not something that comes really easy, especially when you walk away, because the first thing that's on your mind is, okay, how do I get out and start this practice, right? You've got all of these ideas and you're trying to figure out where you want to go, and hopefully, and I know that was another one of your points initially, is, you know, how do you pick the right place and how do you know exactly where you need to be? And so I think there's a lot of factors that help to determine that. You know, I think you also have to, when picking a place where you want to practice, you have to go to a place where you're going to be happy. And sometimes people start chiropractic school and they may have a family, wife and kids, or husband and kids, or, you know, they meet somebody in school and they've got a family. And then so sometimes when they leave, they want to go and practice in a place where you can be around family. I think, you know, to be honest with you, it doesn't really matter where you go, as long as it's a place where you feel that you can thrive. It may be a place where you have a good support system. It may be a place where there's family or friends or things that you know you're familiar with. Ironically, I didn't do any of that stuff when I graduated, which is very interesting. So, you know, I'm from New Orleans. My wife was from Chicago. We didn't have any kids, but we were married in chiropractic school. And, we kind of looked at a map and said, well, where are we going to go? Where are we going to practice? And, how are we going to do this thing? And one of the things that was important to me was to certainly go to a place that was chiropractic friendly in terms. And, South Carolina, having a school here in South Carolina and having some great chiropractors, have practiced in South Carolina, wink, wink.
Yeah.
It was a good choice for us. And, the weather is pretty familiar to what my wife and I were used to. She didn't want to go back to the bitter cold of Chicago. So it was just a whole bunch of different things together that helped us to locate this. But that's so important. You take that location and you take that servant's heart that you go into it with it. And, you just continue to work at it and get into the community and just be transparent. And so eventually you'll get to a point where you feel like you're doing that, right? And you start to see maybe, you start getting some referrals and people start talking about you and your name is coming up and your phone is ringing, which it may not ring for the first couple weeks or months or whatever, but then it eventually starts ringing and then you start to build a little bit of confidence. And then once you start to build that momentum, for me, it was like, now, I understand what I'm doing. I understand what my purpose is, and I understand how I want to reach this community. And like you said, it took a while for them to accept me. I have no family here. I had no roots here. I had no friends here. So I had to go and build relationships. And that's the biggest thing that I would say to future chiropractors is you have to get to a place where you can build relationships and also build relationships with your people, with your practice members, because you want to set the tone. I believe like this, that I'm going to be your doctor for the rest of your life, whether you move away from here or you move all the way across the country. I want to have a lasting impact on you. And I want you to have been educated too on the importance of the correction, analyzation and removal of vertebral subluxation, which is really what we're here to do. And that's another thing that I really, really gravitated towards in school was, if I'm going to do something, I want to be really good at it. And I want to be really good at locating, analyzing, and correcting vertebral subluxations, because that's what we're here to do. And so as you go through school, a lot of people kind of figure out, I maybe want to gravitate to this or gravitate to that or do some of these other things. And that's okay. However you practice is how you practice. But I still believe that the number one thing that we're here to do is to locate, analyze, and correct vertebral subluxations. If you're not doing that, then any of the other stuff that you're doing, in my opinion, is not going to be beneficial. It's not going to help. And then people are going to be confused about what we're doing. And we want our message just to be so clear to every single person that walks through that front door. This is what we're here to do. This is the only thing we're working with. And when your body is able to operate without any interference, then you're going to be much better off, and it's going to be able to do exactly what it was intended to do. So that's big for us here. And in terms of giving back to the school, it's once you're ready. Sometimes for me, I was ready a little bit earlier because I felt really inspired by the training and things that I got at Life and the relationships that I built at Life, and the people that stuck by me. Whenever I had a question, I could call, or whenever I went back, we'd have conversations and all kinds of stuff. So I really enjoyed the experience. Of course it was stressful. It wouldn't be a doctorate program if it wasn't stressful. Of course there were times where I was upset when a grade wasn't what I expected it to be, or when I walked into a X-ray practical and I missed it by 1 point. All of those things are stressful and it hurts. But at the same time, and you don't see this when you're there, but you see it later. You guys are just training us to be the best possible practitioners that we can be. And and some people struggle with that. Some do better than others. But at the end of the day, if you can get through that program and walk away, build great relationships, visit practices, and just be involved not only with the day-to-day educational process, but like all of the other stuff that life has to offer, the clubs, the meetings, the events, the assemblies, you know, all that other stuff. You just got to dive all in. And the more you dive in, the better results that you'll have after, because when you leave, you'll feel like you were better prepared.
Right. Well, you know, I always say that we stress lasting purpose here. Life was founded on lasting purpose, but I don't think students find it here. I think they bring it with them, and we help reinforce it, hopefully. So I think that's a huge message. Like anything else, you get in what you get out what you put in. I do want to make a comment. You know, I'm pretty free to share my biases when I'm aware of them. I think people who know me know that. And I really cannot help but think, as a chiropractic patient for all these years, that chiropractors who say there's no such thing as subluxation, and I realize there's a huge research gap that needs to be filled. And, you know, I'm grateful Life is working on it. Heidi Hovik is working on it. Lots of people are working on that gap. But I've often felt like that I feel really sorry for those chiropractors. Number one, because if you're not locating, analyzing, and correcting subluxations, I'm not sure what makes you a chiropractor, because that's the only unique thing that chiropractors offer. Otherwise, you know, why wouldn't they go someplace else and get nutrition counseling or physical therapy or massage or whatever else they're getting? But I often feel like the students who just, for whatever reason, never really learned how to, or they went to a school that didn't support subluxation-based chiropractic or whatever, if they've never been in a practice where they've seen what happens to people when they get under good subluxation-based care, and see the difference that it makes in their lives, not just sometimes in their conditions, but in their lives and then their functioning, then I feel so sorry for them, because they just don't have a clue what being a chiropractor can really do for people and for them as the practitioner, to be somebody that, you know, has a patient base that just adores you. So what's it like, Dr. Tom Taylor, being adored by your patients?
Listen, my head is going to be so big that I won't be able to walk out of this door. Like I'm cheesing from ear to ear. You're making me blush. Stop it. Continue on. So listen, you know, what's funny, and I get this all the time. I get this multiple times a day when we're starting up new practice members, and they come in and they're ready for the first adjustment, right? They get their adjustment, they come in, and after that whole process, you know, of, you know, coming in, we're using the subluxation station, we're taking digital x-rays, you know, we're sending them through, you know, the advanced neurological testing and all of that fun stuff. And then they get the adjustment, and I say, oh, there you go, power's on. And then they just kind of sit there, and is that it? Yeah, that's it. You know, and that's mind blowing, like, because, you know, so there's not this and there's not that, and there's all this other stuff. It just, the message is getting muddled. You know, pure unadulterated chiropractic is what we're doing, and it's so much easier to practice that way. I know a lot of schools don't teach the subluxation. I use the word subluxation in my practice every day. It's on my tour, and if you kind of look behind me, you know, I have a whole wall in my office dedicated to chiropractic history. And so when we walk people around, we're talking to them about the history of chiropractic. You've got to know where you come from to know where you're going. And we talk about the first subluxation, and we talk about that. I've got another wall behind me where we've got pictures of us adjusting babies and kids and people of all ages. And so we're talking about subluxation, the first subluxation, with Harvey Lillard there, and then we're talking about that first subluxation that happens in babies and where health and healing comes from, above, down, inside out. And we're keeping our message so simple that I think people like simple. Like, generally, I think I'm a simple guy, and I like simple. And so I can gravitate to something that's simple. We're going to move the bone. We're going to take pressure off the nerve and allow your body to heal itself. And in healthcare now, it's becoming so muddled with so many different things, and all that type of stuff. I'm just privileged. I consider it an honor and a privilege to be in a profession where that's what I do. And to be honest with you, it's much less stressful to practice that way. Like I don't have to have 10 different people setting people up on 10 different therapies, doing all of this other kinds of stuff. I can see more people. I can get more people in per hour, right? And for you kids who haven't figured it out yet, the more people you're seeing for an hour, the more you're getting paid, right? And the more people you can help, and the more people who, once they get it, are telling their friends and they're telling their family and they're sharing this message with their community. And it's so simple. And that's why we do it. And so for those folks who don't use the word, for those who considered whether or not they should use it in the word, half of my patients can't even say the word, okay? But that's okay. I'm going to say it for them, They say, my doc, he takes care of those submarines in my neck, whatever. I don't care what you say. Just go out and let them know what we're doing. And that's locating, analyzing, correcting vertebral sulfations. And we keep it very simple in here. I don't want to be treating, rheumatoid arthritis or plantar fasciitis, all those diseases and stuff we learn about. I do one thing in here, and I keep it simple. So hopefully those people who don't use that word or can watch this presentation and talk and see how much less stressful it is to practice when you know what your goal is and what you're managing. And that's what we do.
Well, as a patient, I can tell you that has always been what attracted me to chiropractic. And it's actually the only thing that explains why I'm nearly 60 years old and don't have, because I don't do a lot of other stuff right that I probably ought to do. So I just give it all to chiropractic because
that's right.
That's the only reason I'm not on all kinds of medication and don't even have a pharmacist. And when I go to the MD, they're like, what do you mean you don't have a pharmacy? It's like, I don't have any medication. So they don't, that's a whole new thing. Tom, I'm going to let you know I know how busy you are today. I just want to say thank you for doing this first lasting purpose edition of TCL, of Today's Chiropractic Leadership, and being an example of how much chiropractic leadership involves being a leader in your community, involves being a leader among your peers and your fellow graduates, the people that you came through with, and you are just to stand out across the board in that way. And that's the way you initially enter the leadership of a profession, is to just do it at the ground level and do it with your heart. And you do all that. And I thank you so much for doing this first one with me. Can I just add, how much I adore you. So thank you for doing that and coming through and making it so easy for me. I appreciate it. Ooh, well, every time I see you, I just love you that much. And I just wish I could give you the big hug that I want to give you too. So
I am hugging you through the screen right now. I love you so much. You have no idea. Many of y'all don't know that Miss Rebecca was my ropes course leader when I first got to Life University. And I'm a city boy. Listen. We don't play in the jungle, which appeared to be the jungle for me back in the backwoods at Life. And, we're climbing over each other. We're doing this all kinds of crazy rope stuff. It was completely, I thought all of you were insane. I had no idea what you were doing. I was on my way to medical school and I'm thinking the whole time, there's no way they're doing this at Johns Hopkins. There's no way they're doing this. But it did something bigger, and it helped to reaffirm some of those principles that you're saying. And before we go, it's one thing I always like to tell other chiropractors that are just coming out of school, fledgling chiropractors, as our late great would say, and your husband would say at assembly all the time. That was great. But it's to be authentic. I think that's very, very important. Be authentically you. We could get so caught up sometimes in seminars and, there's all kinds of stuff in chiropractic for us to look at, mentorship groups. There's, all kinds of other things that you can look at those things and say, I want to be like that guy. I want to do what he or she is doing. I think the most important thing that you do is be 100% authentic with who you are, and how you practice and what you look like and how you speak. If you coming from the South, don't try and sound like somebody from Michigan, in your practice, because it just makes you seem unauthentic. I don't even know if that's a word, but I'm going with it. Not authentic. And people will gravitate to you because of who you are. And that's what's great about our profession is a lot of people, they buy into you, right? They may not have any idea if this chiropractic thing is going to work, but they buy into you and who you are and your passion for what you do, and your level of ability to communicate what you're doing to them. And I think that's what they buy in. So I tell them, even if you're struggling, this, look at it and say, am I being me? Am I being authentic? What am I treating here? Am I trying to be a jack of all trades and a master of none? I'm just going to go back to focusing in on the subluxation, removing it, correcting it, leaving it alone when it needs to be left alone, and just be 100% authentic with me, my community, give love and serve, follow lasting purpose. And those are some things that are going to help bring you success in your practice. It may not be overnight. Listen, Rome wasn't built overnight, but you just live it and let that just become the focus every single day of your life and practice and family and all that other good stuff. So I thank you guys for the opportunity. I love life. I always go back. I don't even go back to my undergrad alma mater, which is pretty bad, but I love life that much. So anything I could do to help, I'm right here. And like you said, right outside of beautiful Charleston, South Carolina. If you guys have any questions, you can reach out to Miss Rebecca. She knows how to reach me, and anything she wants, I'll do it.
All right. And you can reach me at happy@life.edu. So anything I can do to serve, let me know. Tom, thank you so much. I love you, and I hope we get to talk sooner than it was before the last time.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. All righty.
Love you.
Love you too. Bye.
Bye.